My question is for the Minister for Agriculture, Fisheries and Forestry, Minister Watt, once again. Now, Minister, I understand that you've previously discussed the topic of livestock at one of your agricultural minister meetings. Now, can you provide us an update on the progress of mRNA for livestock, which are intended for human consumption? Have any trials of mRNA in Australia for livestock? If not, are you going to commence them? If you are going to do it, for how long, etc.? Thank you, Minister.
Senator Babet, I note that you now join Labor senators in asking questions about agriculture, and I look forward to the National Party one day joining you in sharing your interest in the agriculture sector of Australia. But maybe we'll get there one day. And again, Senator Babet, I know that the issues around vaccines are something that is of great interest to you. I can inform you that currently there are no mRNA currently registered for use in livestock in Australia, and there are no vaccines that are mandatory for any Australian livestock under the Biosecurity Act. I'm certainly aware, like you, Senator Babet, of some discussion that is occurring and some trials and things like that in relation to mRNA. There is a lot of interest about that in the agriculture community and the wider community. I'm aware that a research project funded by Meat and Livestock Australia is currently being undertaken by the New South Wales Government, and that project has commenced trials on the immunological response to construct in Canada. So there is work starting to happen with Australian industry in partnership with state governments on these issues. But at the moment, these trials are being undertaken to determine whether mRNA is safe and effective for animals. I think implicit in your question was an acknowledgement that we do need to make sure that as new vaccines and products come online, that they are safe both for livestock and for the humans who may go on to consume that livestock in the form of meat. The Australian Pesticides and Veterinary Medicines Authority has the role of evaluating the safety and efficacy of veterinary vaccines and chemicals before permitting or registering them for use, and that includes whether meat from animals with would be safe to eat. So I think it's fair to say that we're at a very early stage of looking at what do, and the safety of animals and humans is paramount.
Now, if we ever do approve mRNA animals, if that day comes, or rather when that day comes, I have the feeling is a better way to put it, will your government, if you're still in government, would you commit to labelling food products made from animals that have been injected with because I don't want to eat that stuff, and I think there's a lot of people that don't want to eat that stuff either.
And I do look forward to a long period of the Albanese government, and I look forward to receiving questions from you for a long time to come as well. Matters of labelling, as you're probably aware, Senator Babet, are also the responsibility of the APVMA, the Australian Pesticides and Veterinary Medicines Authority, and one of the things that they take into account in authorising a product for use is its safety, and they also have responsibility around the labelling of those products to make sure that consumers are fully informed of what they're buying, and that to make sure that farmers are fully aware of what they may be using in their farming activities. But it is a natural part of all animal bodies. The safety and efficacy of mRNA developed for use in animals will be assessed as part of any registration process. Australia's food safety standards are strictly applied for all food intended for human consumption, and I can certainly assure you and the broader public that we'll be taking the safety matters that you're concerned about into account.
All right, Minister, now let's say that one day being injected into livestock, it's going to be used for human consumption. It's very realistic that this could happen. If this does happen, will you or will your government ever seek to make it mandatory for producers to inject their animals, much like you kind of made it mandatory, well, all of you here, mandatory for people, otherwise they lose their jobs, etc. Will you make it mandatory for animals?
As has been observed, there's a lot of if, buts and maybes in that question, but the broad point I think you're making is whether I can see a day when it would be mandatory to inject, for livestock producers to inject mRNA into their animals? And the short answer to that question is no. As I've said in answer to your earlier questions, before an agricultural or veterinary chemical product can be legally supplied, sold or used in Australia, it must be registered by the Australian Pesticides and Veterinary Medicines Authority or approved for use under permit. The APVMA has advised that they have not registered or approved under permit any mRNA veterinary in Australia. As I've pointed out, we're at a very early stage, and in particular the project and the research that's undertaken at the moment is about ensuring the safety of using mRNA, both in terms of the safety of livestock and the safety of humans who would go on to consume that livestock.
Thank you, Minister.